Welcome, Jeff. Thank you for joining me. It's great to have you on as a founder of a startup company here in Brisbane, actually. So I've got a couple of questions for you. But first off, welcome. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me.
All good. Well, I guess maybe the best place to start is a little introduction to yourself, perhaps your role in the company that you founded, and basically a little bit about what Shotstack is.
I'm the technical co-founder of Shotstack, and we have a video editing API that lets customers generate videos at scale in the cloud. So editing, processing, that kind of thing.
And your role in the company?
I'm just technical co-founder. At the moment, there's 2 co-founders and a couple of employees. We don't have executive titles at the moment. We just, I'm the co-founder and I'm the software engineer, and my role is the engineering, basically.
How did you get started with the idea for Shotstack?
So, I got into this like years and years ago, longer than the company has been a company. It started off as a kind of a side project. I wanted to learn about things like AWS Lambda, C++ programming. And I also had this passion for video editing, filmmaking, GoPro, kind of adventure sport, filmmaking. And I wanted to just have a meaty project that I could spend my time learning and maybe build something out of it. But it was mainly just a fun little project to begin with. And it just kind of went from there.
I guess your background going into this project, maybe talk a little bit about your software development career up until you started Shotstack.
I'm a bit of a dinosaur when it comes to kind of digital internet web design. Late 90s, I got into the internet web design and worked on a bunch of projects. Like I was in an e-commerce company as a founder of that for a while. I had a web design agency for about 10 years and then moved to Australia and worked in agencies again here. But I kind of got to the point where I'd had enough of agencies and I wanted to get more into the more kind of deep down kind of engineering side of things and the product side of things. So I managed to get a job at a News Corp where I was working on the taste.com.au and some of the other magazine websites there. And that was a contract, so that lasted for about a year and a half. And then when that ended, I applied for a job at the Iconic and I got in there and I stayed there for 3 years. And that was like a really great experience as a software engineer. I think before that I would call myself a web designer or a web developer. When I worked there, I really felt like that was proper kind of software engineering, just some of the systems they were doing and the way they worked and the agile kind of team structures. And I learned a hell of a lot there and kind of bring a lot of those principles to what I'm doing now.
Sounds like you've had a little bit of an entrepreneurial type background. Do you think that was always there and a contributor to you launching Shotstack? Or was it just a case of you saw a gap in the market?
No, never been a see a gap in the market type person. Although I guess through my entrepreneurial journey, I would say I've been at the right place at the right time several times, but never really capitalized on it. It's always been wanting to build my own things, more about building products rather than building businesses. So I got into mobile phones, smartphones before the iPhone came out, was selling smartphones, and then that turned into like price comparison. I got into crypto in about 2013, 2014, created my own cryptocurrency, before you could just do it with Ethereum and that kind of thing. So, but again, my coin is worth nothing. And then kind of, video. I think video's been like big for a while, but video automation. And I mean, one of the biggest things that excites me right now is the automated image generation and video generation that started. I think we're looking at that. So that could be hopefully another right place, the right time kind of moment. So.
And when you got started with Shotstack, tell me a little bit about how that happened and how it progressed into you launching into it full time.
Yeah, like I said, I was looking around for a project to keep me busy. I enjoy surfing and I sometimes go out on my surfboard, or I used to with the GoPro on the board. But you can spend like an hour paddling and fighting the waves, but you might get 30 seconds of usable footage. So my original idea was that use some kind of AI to detect those bits where I was standing on the board and surfing and discard the rest, and then kind of stitch it together with a soundtrack and make a cool kind of video edit. But the biggest problem with that was the AI. First of all, it's not something that I've ever really been good at. And I was using off-the-shelf tools. I was using IBM. They had an AI tool, but it was about 50% accurate. So it wasn't going to work. And the size of GoPro footage is huge. So this was about 5 years ago when, uploading a gigabyte of footage to get 1 minute, kind of, we're talking gigabytes, just wasn't there. So I kind of shelved that idea. But I'd built up this API, and I'd also worked in my agency days on these kind of activations where we were recording people doing, one was like singing karaoke in a Toyota 86 going around a skid pan, a couple hundred people in a day, and each one would get a personalized video. And there was teams of people doing this, 2 people editing and 2 people uploading the files. And I just thought, maybe this process could be automated. Maybe there's other people doing similar kind of things. I knew there were people doing similar things. So yeah, then it turned from being like a consumer product to more of how could businesses use that. Yeah, after that, about 3.5 years ago, I saw an advert for an accelerator based in Brisbane called Collider through QUT, and it was aimed at creative industries. So I applied for that. I was working at the Iconic, just thought I'd apply, see what happens. And yeah, they called me up and said, can you come up for the kind of pitch day? And went to that. And then, within a week, they said, yeah, we want you to come aboard. So yeah, it was quit my job, and I was flying up to Brisbane every week to do the accelerator.
So you really launched into it. It was stop-start. It was like finish your job, straight into full-time launching your own startup.
Yeah, 100%. I had a good secure job, but I just thought, I've got something here and I want to pursue this. I'm not, 100% into the safe job kind of thing. I'm a little bit of a risk taker. I enjoy the thrill of cobbling things together and seeing people use it and just seeing where you can take it. So yeah, I quit the job and went 100%.
And how fast did things progress for you? Like, how long was it before you got your first customer?
So from starting at the accelerator, I would say it was maybe a couple of months before I had a customer that was serious about using us. I set it up the classic old, I did actually have a product that was usable, but I also did the old landing page, kind of one-page landing page, and put a Google form on there for people to sign up, and a bit of SEO traffic. And people were signing up every week and kind of playing about, giving feedback. But yeah, it was within a couple of months, I had a serious customer that had the budget to spend and was serious on building something. And I think maybe 4 5 months, they had actually kind of built a product and signed a deal, and then we're paying customers.
And your progression, I guess, internally, as far as I know you have another co-founder, how long did that take to find that co-founder, and what was that journey like?
Yeah, so that came along, I think, well, it was a couple of years ago now. In terms of the startup, I must have been maybe 1.5 years in on my own and getting a bit frustrated with kind of very low growth numbers. Someone actually made me an offer to buy the company and absorb me into their company, but the offer kind of, it sounded okay numbers wise, but the way I'd earn it would be like an earn out. So I'd have to go and work for them for 3 years. And I wouldn't really be making that much more than I could as a senior software engineer. So it wasn't really a good deal, but I actually considered it. But then I thought, if I'm considering this, I'm not going to really make anything from it. Why don't I just team up with a co-founder and, give away half the company and see if we can build something together? So I saw a thing on Fishburners, which is the kind of co-working incubator space in Sydney, and they had a find a pitch, find a night. I went along to that, had 90 seconds on stage and presented the company and met a few people at the event. But it was a few days later, Derek, my co-founder, got in touch with me and we met for a coffee. And then, a few weeks later, he'd done a strategy kind of proposal, and he was just working off his own back to help me. And yeah, I think we just clicked, and I thought, yeah, let's go ahead and do this.
And how has it progressed from there after having someone join you as co-founder?
Yeah, it's been really helpful, really good. It's been 2 years. We have massively increased our revenue since then. It's just great to have someone to kind of help out, especially on all the things that I don't like doing or don't want to do. And he's technical as well, so he can just go away and build stuff and doesn't need my help on that. So yeah, just the pairing of minds and the help. And he's much more commercially minded. So he'll emphasize that this is great, but we need to make money. We need to, this needs to have a commercial kind of angle to it. And, if we're not making money, we can't pay ourselves, we can't pay other people. So they bring that to the table as well.
From finding that co-founder, how have you then managed your initial hires after that?
Originally, it was just the two of us, and there wasn't enough money to pay ourselves. So I was working a part-time job. Derek worked the first year just off his own back and didn't get paid. It was about a year ago now that I went full-time, and a few months later or 6 months later, we had enough revenue to hire our first engineer. So that's been a bit of an up and down wild ride. We're on to our first engineer now. So the first hire was, we advertised for a junior software engineer, and we had a bunch of junior people sign up, express an interest. They were just too junior. They were going to need a lot of hand-holding and coaching and mentoring and teaching. But we did have one guy who has been in tech for 15 odd years, but he'd left the industry for several years. He'd kind of dabbled back in. And he just wanted a kind of an easy job doing, support tickets and stuff like that, and was asking for a junior salary. So we thought, okay, well, look, this guy's got a lot of experience. Let's see how it goes. But he left after a month, I think, because the minute we kind of asked him to look at things that were more than just a really basic support ticket, he didn't want to do that. So it was a wrong fit from the very start. The next person was just, they were good at what they did. They were great. They were in the right company. They would be the right person, but yeah, they just weren't quite the right fit, and gelling, weren't clicking, which, I think is really important when there's basically two engineers and you've got to work on something together. And now on to number 3, who started about a week ago, who has actually reached out to me way back 3 years ago when I first started this business, and was just really interested in what we were doing, kind of expressed an interest then. And it was well, it's just me, there's no revenue, there's nothing we can do here. But he stayed in touch and kind of got back in touch with us. So he proposed to us that he could join us. Now is the right time. So yeah, we're now taking him on, and we're going to see how that goes.
And with the business model, how do you work pricing for Shotstack?
So we have a subscription model. Our customers generate video, they edit video in large kind of volumes, batch videos, automated video creation, and we charge them per minute for video they create. But it's done on credits. So they pay a subscription. So the entry level cheapest subscription is $49 a month. And with that, they can create 200 minutes of video. If they go over 200 minutes, then they get charged an overage fee. And then the idea is that they then need to upgrade to the next plan up, which will give them 500 included minutes. And they keep upgrading as their usage grows. So we kind of grow with our customers.
What made you choose this pricing structure?
So originally we started with a full kind of meter billing. So if you create 10 minutes of video, that's going to cost you $1. So we had a whole bunch of customers, paying us $2 a month, $5 a month, sending us all these report requests, basically getting way more value than what they were paying for. So this was one of the things that my co-founder worked on early on, was updating to this kind of mixture of subscription plus overage, so that every customer that signed up for us could, pay the cost of an AWS EC2 instance, which they'd be paying for anyway, and get all the video technology platform already built into them. So they got, they were kind of getting the value and the price matched better. Yeah. So yeah, since that happened, I think we had 2 or 3 customers leave us. For some of them, going from $5 to $49 was just too big a jump for them. But most of the customers stayed, and even though some customers had the price tripled on them, they were still happy to stay with us.
And do you think you will change your pricing structure in the future, or are you pretty set on this business model now?
I think the model's pretty good, but as we add more features, add more value, and add more kind of types of product, then yeah, I think it will come under review. pretty soon. The credit system is quite flexible because you can always apply credits to, whether it's a AI generated video or kind of like subtitles or something. We can direct the credits to be absorbed by those new features that get created.
Which tech stack did you decide to go with for Shotstack?
So Shotstack is built using Node.js in the back end, running on Lambdas, mainly running on a serverless infrastructure in AWS. And the front end is React and using static site builders to run everything on, basically everything's hosted on S3, our front end websites, and the back end, Node and Lambda.
Do you think you'll ever change your tech stack?
I can't see a big reason to right now. Lambda and Node.js just work so well together. React, there's lots of developers. It just runs without any problems. Our application is becoming more and more complex, and to choose a different platform right now just wouldn't make any sense.
What sort of goals do you have for Shotstack in the next 3 to 5 years?
So right now, our biggest goal is to become more accessible to more people. So we've been a very niche product. There's only so many people need an API, and there's only so many people that kind of use us. And really, like a lot of people just don't understand what we do unless you're a developer and you know what an API is and you know how to hook one up and things like that. But I think there's broader applications out there for automating things without having to write code or designing a video using JSON. So right now you have to design your video pretty much using code, which no designer, unless you're very lucky, you're going to get a designer that can do code as well. So that's been the big focus for us this year, is designing like a Canva-like drag and drop video editor. The next step is kind of like, how do we make this so that people only have to write the minimum amount of code, or they don't have to write any code at all. They can just hook it into an existing system, hook it into like their Shopify or their WordPress or their Zapier account, or upload a spreadsheet and it just creates the videos, or can just drag and drop workflows that hook into other data sources, and it just removes the code and it makes us more accessible to more people.
And in regards to revenue, can you talk a little bit about your, numbers at the moment and how that has progressed for you along the way?
Yeah, I think that's okay. We're approaching about $500,000 ARR now. So approaching like 40K a month, AUD. And yeah, like I was saying at the start of this, I was frustrated because before I met Derek, my co-founder, because the numbers were kind of like $50 a month, $100 a month. Then we had a big customer pay a few thousand, and then, be back down to 200, 300, 200. When that happens for a year, it gets very frustrating. But the thing is, it's very slow exponential growth. 200 soon turns into 400, and then 400 to 800, and then you're kind of off to the races a bit more. So last year we were seeing kind of 30% month-on-month growth, up until the point where we could pay ourselves and hire an employee. More recently, we've kind of slowed down a little bit. I'm not too sure whether it's the economic environment. Because we were coming off that low base, it's now harder to kind of double your revenue. But this is why we're kind of looking at the new ways to make the product more accessible. We've kind of got this niche going on. There's a book, Crossing the Chasm. I don't know if you've read it, but it talks about going from that very early adopter stage to the next stage, which is kind of early majority, or that. And there's a gap there that you have to cross, where you go from those people that get your product to the people that need everything to be just working. So we're at that bridge now, and we're trying to cross that.
As far as where you're looking to take the company, as far as potential revenue or a buyout, what does that look like for you?
I think for me, this is my retirement strategy. So I'm approaching 50. And, I always set this business up, this project up, as something that would keep me involved for however long it took, 10, 15 years. I would hope that 15 years I would be close to cashing in. I think, this is a business that will keep me engrossed as long as needed. But at the end of it, I'll be 55, 60. I'm looking to cash out and buy my yacht and sail off into the sunset.
Nice. And as far as investor funding or funding rounds, have you progressed at all with that? Is that something you're looking to do?
Yep, we've done a couple of attempts to raise funds. So the first was when my co-founder joined pretty early on. We wanted to get funding, and yeah, we went around all the names you would have heard of around Australia. The feedback we mainly got was that the market size was not big enough and that we were too kind of niche, and yeah, we just wouldn't be able to, yeah, there wasn't enough people basically. And yeah, we worked really hard on that. Derek did most of that, and we were very intentional in our efforts. The next time around was at the start of this year, where we'd kind of got to the point where we were bootstrapped, we were making enough money to pay ourselves, we could see we were growing 30% month on month. We weren't thinking, oh, we need money. We're not desperate. We were profitable. So we thought, oh, we'll put some feelers out and see if anyone's interested without any stress, without any, trying too hard. So we went back to some of the people we were talking to before. We went to some new people, still getting similar kind of messages. Are the markets too small? But we are speaking to some people now that are pretty interested in what we're doing. And they reach out to us more than we reach out to them to kind of see how we're doing. And yeah, I think if everything lines up, the right amount and the right investors, we would go ahead.
Which year did you actually get started, and has your expectations of where you would be now been more or less than what you originally thought?
So I think I can look back at the Shotstack code base, and there's commits there to 2017. But before this, I was actually working on that kind of GoPro project, which I don't even know where the code is now. But I think that must have been like 2016, so even older. It seems like such a long time, but at the same time, it's passed so quickly. And I'm sure people say, what, you've been working on this startup for 5 years? And, you only went full time a year ago, but a lot of that was a side project. A lot of that I was working part time. For me, it's more a labor of love. So I've never been like, oh, I've got to build this quickly. It's got to be out the door. And we've got to be like making hundreds of thousands of revenue every month within 6 months or a year. You do hear the success stories and the absolute rocket ships. People just launch a company and like 3 years later, they're worth billions of dollars. This has been a steady progress, steady journey. It's a very kind of complicated product to create as well, especially just by yourself. So it has taken quite a while, but I wouldn't really change it. I've enjoyed doing it. So yeah, it's been more about the experience than building a massive business. So.
Any future plans for how many people you'd like to bring on as far as staff? Is there a size you'd like to grow to, or a number you think you would get to reasonably soon?
I'm more excited about these companies that are worth a lot of money or generate massive revenues, but they only have like 12 people working there. I think, was it not Instagram was bought for $1 billion with 12 people working there or something. And I think there's a tech company, it's GitLab or one of these kind of developer platforms. They have a very small team, but they're actually making, $1 million per employee. So I like to think about it that way. Again, right now, I just think kind of smallish, a few more developers, maybe more people in marketing, growth, support, developer advocate. So maybe an even split. Right now, in terms of our investment and what we're looking for, we'd be looking at maybe 3 more engineers and 3 more people on marketing and growth and support. With a bit more funding that we've looked at, it would be maybe a team of 12, 15. So yeah, anywhere between 8 and 16 people right now. You have to see how you grow and then grow with it. Yeah, so that's the way I look at it.
Great. Well, it's been great to have a chat with you and get a bit of insight into your journey as a startup founder and now co-founder and bringing people on board. It's been really great to chat with you.
Thanks a lot. It's been great to chat. Thanks.